Hi, everybody, and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm your host, Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Form handicappers Mike Beard, David Aragona, and I will take a look at three major graded stakes races coast to coast. Essential Quality, the Belmont Stakes winner, preps for the Travers as the big favorite in the Jim Dandy. But check out these two Grade 1 sprints. The Alfred G. Vanderbilt at Saratoga, the Bing Crosby at Del Mar, full fields, competitive horses. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on a stakes race at Gulfstream Park. Marcus Hirsch always looking for value in races across the country. Plus best bets. We're all in line. Let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with a look at Saturday's DRF Race of the Day. Let's throw up the field for the Jim Dandy, the Grade 2, $600,000 local prep for the Travers. It's race number 9 at Saratoga on Saturday. You can download free formulator past performances on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Access them, handicap along with us here on Out of the Gate. Remember, expanded stakes previews of all the graded races on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel or video.drf.com. The big name is, of course, Essential Quality. You see he's the heavy favorite on David Aragona's morning line. A couple of other interesting horses in here. I mean, you've got Wayburn, who is the winner of the Grade 3 Gotham. You've got Risk Taking, the winner of the Grade 3 Withers. And you have a new face, the number 2 Mask Parade, who has won his last 3 starts, including 2 at this 1.125 distance. Let's watch Mask Parade's most recent start for trainer Al Stahl, the Grade 3 Ohio Derby, where he made a nice mid-race move into contention. He straightens out into the stretch, and he's very game to beat several horses. You also see Keep Me in Mind, who's in this field, rallying for third. Mask Parade might sort of be one of the now horses in this division as we head into the second half of 2021. And he's worth consideration if you believe Essential Quality will stub his toe. The question is, does David and Mike believe that Essential Quality will stub his toe? Let's see who they like in the Jim Dandy.
We're going to start things off with a very heavy favorite here in the Jim Dandy in Essential Quality, number 5. Very, very short price on the morning line. Going to be a very short price at post time. You know, listen, at the end of the day, he's just the best 3-year-old in the country right now. He cemented that last time, finally broke through with that really fast race in the Belmont Stakes. And his Belmont win last time, I think, is a race that you just have to like from any angle, no matter how you take that race apart. He ran a big race that day. If he runs anything like that, he's just going to win this Jim Dandy. I get that he's prepping, so maybe he won't fire his best shot here, but he's a horse who can't be compromised by pace. He's probably just a little bit better than these horses right now. I am not trying to beat him at a short price. Let's go over to David and see if maybe he's going to take a shot against the favorite.
Essential Quality is going to be a very short price in this Jim Dandy, and I'm personally not trying to beat him. He's just been so good in all of his races. I mean, he has that one blemish on his record in the Kentucky Derby, but it turns out the wide trip probably was a valid excuse that day because he came right back and was a game winner of the Belmont Stakes over Hot Rod Charlie, got a huge 109 buy, 128 time form US speed figure for that race, and that performance just puts him out of reach of his Jim Dandy foes. Hot Rod Charlie came back, although he was the disqualified winner of the Haskell. He backed up that Belmont performance, so I would expect Essential Quality is going to do the same thing here, and I respect horses like Mask Parade and Wayburn, but I just don't think they're quite in the same league as the favorite in the Jim Dandy.
I'm going to agree with the fellas. I can't go past Essential Quality in here. He is just an extremely talented 3-year-old colt. We saw him last year win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He roared into the Kentucky Derby on an undefeated streak. He was far from embarrassed in the Derby. And that Belmont Stakes, just an exceptional performance to beat a very good 3-year-old in Hot Rod Charlie. Despite being 4 wide at the half-mile pole, his tactical speed puts him in good stead. I think he's going to get it done over Mask Parade in the Jim Dandy. Nicole Russo's looking for pedigrees when she handicaps for Saturday, and Pedigree Pick segment this week focuses on a nice stakes race at Gulfstream Park. Let's go to Nicole.
The action around the country this weekend includes 2 divisions of the Florida Sire Stakes Series at Gulfstream on Saturday. The Desert Vixen division for fillies in particular, interesting to me because we get a look at runners by some of Florida's freshman sires. In this field of 11 fillies, there are 4 in here from the first crop of Noble Bird: Yukio, Noble Dreamer, Royal Rocker, and Rufa Red Knot. Now, Noble Bird's prospects as a 2-year-old sire, very interesting to me because he didn't run until age 3 and did his best work as an older horse, winning 3 graded stakes at ages 4 and 5. However, he is by Birdstone, a runner best remembered for besting Smarty Jones in the Belmont, but he was a very good 2-year-old, highlighted by his victory in the Champagne Stakes, going the 1-turn mile at Belmont. Overall, won 2 of 3 outings as a juvenile, including his debut that summer. Perhaps he'll pass on some of that precocity to his granddaughters through Noble Bird. Now, several other freshmen in here. 2 I find particularly interesting are Greenpoint Crusader, represented by Solar Girl, and Neolithic, the sire of Stone Beauty. Greenpoint Crusader himself won the Champagne Stakes, certainly was at his best as a juvenile. Now, Neolithic was a solid older router, multiple grade and Group 1 placed in major events. However, he's by Sire of Sires Harlan's Holiday, who produced juvenile champion Shanghai Bobby. And, of course, he's the sire of leading sire Into Mischief, a very, very good sire of 2-year-olds. Always watch the juveniles from this line. The Neolithics could be sleeper picks in some of these Florida Stallion races, perhaps less obvious picks. Now, as you've already heard, a big card on Saturday at Saratoga. The Grade 1 Vanderbilt features one of my favorite horses in training, the ageless Whitmore. Let's get you back to the team for their analysis of that race.
Let's throw up the field for the Grade 1 $350,000 Alfred G. Vanderbilt Handicap. Race number 8 at Saratoga on Saturday kicks off a 50-cent pick 4, and you're going to want to head on over to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel or video.drf.com. Expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races. We talk about each horse's pluses and minuses. A horse with a big plus coming into this race, obviously, is Whitmore. Last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint winner, always has a chance, and in this race he should get a little bit of pace. He's a very dangerous contender. Now, all 3 of us here on Out of the Gate going different directions. We're not going with Whitmore, so maybe we've put him into the winner's circle. Let's see who David and Mike like.
I personally haven't been thrilled by the leaders in the sprint division this year on the dirt. Horses like Mischievous Alex, Firenze Fire, and Whitmore, who figure to be the favorites in this race. I mean, they've run fine this year, but personally, I'm a little bit skeptical of that huge buyer that Mischievous Alex posted in the Carter. Firenze Fire, he does have that reputation as being a Belmont Park specialist, and that is where he's achieved most of his major victories. Whitmore has yet to win this year, and it seems like maybe he's finally lost a step at the age of 8, so I want some new faces in this Alfred G. Vanderbilt. I think the logical one towards the outside is the number 9 Special Reserve, who comes in with some of the best speed figures in this field, and while he's getting a major class test, he's drawn well outside the other speeds, and I think he's going to run well here, but I want to get even a little bit more creative in this race and go for a bigger price, and my top pick is the number 8 Montauk Traffic, who I pegged at 15 to 1 in the morning line, and I'd want to get that kind of price on him. Montauk Traffic, let's take a look at his last race at Belmont when he came from the clouds to win by 3/4 of a length over an optional claiming field. There was a horse on the lead who had things his own way up front, set some moderate fractions, and Montauk Traffic just really kicked it in late to run this horse down. This gray son of Cross Traffic has a really potent late kick on him when he runs his race, and I'm always encouraged when Linda Rice takes a shot in these graded stakes races because it's not something that she does that often unless she really thinks that she's got a chance for a horse to hit the board or win these races. So there's quite a bit of speed signed on. I think it could come back a little bit, and I don't trust the favorites, so I'm going to take a shot with the number 8 Montauk Traffic at a price in the Vanderbilt.
I'm a fan of David's horse there, Montauk Traffic. I'm going to try to use that horse somewhere at a price in this race and see if he can run late. At the end of the day, more than anything else in this Vanderbilt, I just kind of wanted to be against a horse who's probably going to be the favorite, Mischievous Alex. I know that he can win. I'm just not a real big believer in that horse, and just not really inclined to take a short price on him, especially as he faces what turns out to be a pretty strong field for this race. I'm going to go right back to the number 3 Firenze Fire. I think in some ways he just might be the best horse in this race. He shows up and he runs every time. I like him cutting back from 7 to 6 in this race, and I also like that, you know, being off the rail and here with some other speed in play. They don't have to send him from the gate like they have in his last 2 starts. He's run fine going to the lead in his last 2 races, but he might be even a little bit better where he can just sort of sit and make one run. I think those will be the tactics in this Vanderbilt on Saturday. And I think in a lot of ways he could be considered the horse to beat in there. I like Firenze Fire.
I like the number 9 Special Reserve in this year's edition of the Alfred G. Vanderbilt. I think he's one of the now horses of the division. He was claimed by Michael Maker, who has just turned this horse's form around. Let's watch his most recent race at Prairie Meadows, the Iowa Sprint. It was a short field, and the horse on the lead is a 3-year-old making his first start off of a lengthy layoff, but this is how you want an odds-on favorite to win. Special Reserves inhales the pace setter at the 3/16 pole and goes on to a solid score, best yet, with a triple-digit Beyer speed figure. It backs up his victory at Pimlico with a triple-digit Beyer in the Maryland Sprint. What I like about this horse is his positional speed. Breaking from the outside post, he can get into this race early, and I think he can sit off long shot pace setter Strike Power with a big look at this turning into the stretch. I'm going to go with Special Reserve in the Alfred G. Vanderbilt Stakes. Marcus Hirsch looks for value. His weekend game plan is up next.
Marcus Hirsch, correspondent and handicapper for Daily Racing Form. Here with the weekend game plan for July 31st, 2021. Got 3 races we're going to talk about. Let's see, got one price. Let's start with that, the Grade 1 Vanderbilt. That's 6 furlongs. It's a handicap. Saratoga on Saturday. Very solid field. The dirt sprint division has not been tip-top, I don't think, for several years now, which is surprising. We're supposed to be a country of dirt sprinters. In any case, I found all the favorites here had some vulnerabilities. Mischievous Alex, the 2-1 morning line favorite, 124-pound starting high weight. He's drawn inside. I don't like that post for him. He's cutting back to 6 furlongs, 2 for 2 at the distance. But if you look at the races that he actually won at 6 furlongs, not stellar fields. I do believe he's probably better at 3/4 than a mile, and he ran an okay race in the Metropolitan last time. I think he's a deserving favorite, but I don't think he's going to get the trip that he necessarily wants. And I think that his form is still being inflated by that 109 Beyer speed figure on his page, which I don't think is representative of his true baseline. So I do accord him a decent chance, but I'm against him. Special Reserve on the outside. Iowa Sprint, the race he won last time, has actually produced some good Vanderbilt performances in the past. This horse did get incredibly good. He was claimed the day that he ran with blinkers off. I think that equipment change made a big difference for him. But I do question how long he can sustain that form, A, and B, even though this isn't like a super tough Grade 1, he's stepping up considerably in competition off of the Iowa Sprint last time. The horse he beat there is coming back in the Bing Crosby, which we'll discuss shortly. But I don't think that horse is anywhere close to a top quality sprinter. TBD. He's young. We'll see. But Special Reserve, in any case, is due to get a decent trip. He's 9-2 on the morning line, and that would be a fair price. I do suspect he's going to get bet below that. I also believe that Strike Power, whom he ran against in the Maryland Sprint 2-back, he's going to show plenty of speed, go to the lead. I think those two are going to set a legitimate pace. Could set it up for the 8-year-old Whitmore, who has run very well at Saratoga in the past. Whitmore is coming in fresh. I think he's trained well enough for this, but I mean, he is an 8-year-old. All things come to an end. I think a bit of decline might have set in already. I certainly don't expect him to run any better than he has, and I don't know that his best right now is going to be quite good enough. So the horse I settled on is 15-1 on the line. I think he's going to be a little shorter than that, but I do expect double-digit win odds. 3 Technique. He runs with blinkers on, which I really like for this horse, simultaneous with cutting back to 6 furlongs. His best race this year was 6.5, and I do think that getting into a quicker paced race where he can just sit back, 7-8 lengths off the pace, make one run into a fast pace might really be what this horse wants to do. I think that his 2020 season is generally a throwout. His first race back at Saratoga was abysmal. He took several starts and then he got a little bit better, but not up to the level you might have expected after some very promising 2-year-old form. Much better this season. He had a couple excuses. He ran maybe too farther than his best. And the last race in which he ran against Firenze Fire, who I didn't mention, he had a 3-1 shot on the line for this race. Belmont-loving Firenze Fire can run okay at Saratoga, but definitely prefers Belmont. Another horse who we've clearly seen the best of. Can't expect any more from him than what we've already seen. When 3 technique ran against him. It was a race dominated by the 2 front runners. Also, this horse got leaned into by a rival to his outside, kind of got stuck, I think eyeballing him in upper stretch. When he finally shook loose, I thought he finished with good energy. His work pattern coming into this race is excellent, and Saratoga has been his home base for a good part of his career. I think he's a very live long shot in a race that could be open to something a little bit pricier. Sticking with the Saratoga action, the Bowling Green has a nice field. The first start for Channel Maker since he went on a Mideast excursion to no great effect. Didn't run that well in either Saudi Arabia or Dubai. Not all that surprising. He's 5-2 on the morning line favorite. If he does go off at a price like that, it creates value on all the other horses in the race, because I don't believe that Channel Maker is going to win the Bowling Green. I think that this is a race going again. He'll be better suited to a 1.5 miles in the Sword Dancer, and I think that's probably the race toward which he's being pointed. Vilmont has 3 entered here. I thought Moon Over Miami was the most interesting of those, but I just don't. I mean, he's shown flashes. He comes off a good performance, and I think he's well meant. I still don't think that he's quite up to the task of getting there in what could be a very slow or moderate paced affair. And with that in mind, I picked Channel Cat here, drawn on the rail, 5-1 on the morning line. Could be about that price. He wired this very race in 2019, which is always great to see that not only does he like the course, but he can be an effective front runner over this configuration. His race earlier in the year at Belmont, where he set a strong pace and held on for a narrow victory, showed that he's every bit as good this year as he has been at any point in his career. I give him a big excuse last time in the Manhattan. That course had some give to it. He might want it a little bit firmer. And also, he wound up chasing Tribhuvan, who set a very fast pace, especially going down the backstretch. And a horse that's chasing a lone front runner who goes on is often susceptible to wilting, which he did. I'm throwing that race out. This is another horse with an excellent work pattern coming into this start. Drawn on the rail, I'm really hoping that John Velasquez, who ran to his front-running win 2 races ago, goes to the lead, gets the horse to relax, sets a sensible pace, and that Channel Cat can go all the way. 4 or 5-1 would be a fair price for him. Out west to the Bing Crosby, the pretty good field for this race. Pretty deep, some interesting horses. CZ Rocket, I think, is the deserving favorite. He went to Lone Star for a 2-turn mile last time. Not quite his cup of tea. He's a 6 or 7 furlong horse around 1 turn. The big question with him is of Lasix. He runs without Lasix for the first time, as reported by DRF's Jay Privman in his race preview. This is a test run for the Breeders' Cup Sprint, also at Del Mar, which will be Lasix free as well. If CZ Rocket can't run to his best without Lasix, obviously they would look elsewhere. I do think the race is packed with pace elements. It's hard to see them not just flying around there with some real speedy need the lead types entered. And that helps CZ Rocket, who wants to stalk and make one run and is really benefited by a fairly run race, which he'll get. But I think that another horse is going to get a good trip sitting in the second flight, maybe even getting first run on CZ Rocket, and that's the 3-year-old Dr. Scheibel. He ran 1 race this year after being one of the better 2-year-olds in California last season. His campaign was curtailed and it took a long time to make it back to the races. His comeback run, he did get a good trip against lesser opposition. I thought he finished with nice energy. He's a horse that looks like he really ought to improve second time out. And one of his recent workouts was available on video. He worked with 2 other horses. He actually started out in front of both of them. They came up past him approaching the quarter pole. He was behind both of those horses, and then he was the one finishing on the far outside, doing it well in hand, just blowing away those 2 workmates with a very impressive run through the wire and out around the turn. Looks like a horse sitting on a peak performance to me. I don't think he's going to be a big price, but I think he might be a fair price, and I think he can get the money in the Bing Crosby.
Let's head on over to Del Mar for Saturday's Grade 1 $300,000 Bing Crosby Stakes. We're going 3/4 mile. As we take a look at the field, there is a big name in here. Arguably, the best sprinter in the country is the number 3 CZ Rocket, since being claimed by Peter Miller. 9 starts, 7 wins, 2 seconds. One of those runner-up finishes came in last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint. The other, We're going to watch that race right now. His most recent start, the Grade 3 Steve Sexton Mile. And I think CZ Rocket had two things working against him in this race. One, the sloppy track. He just seems to be much better on fast going. And two, this mile distance, especially a two-turn mile distance. CZ Rocket has found himself and has rejuvenated his career as a sprinter. Maybe the mile was just a bit too far. He still finished ahead of a pretty nice horse. The sixth-place finisher came back to run second in the Stephen Foster with a 97 Beyer speed figure. CZ Rocket, the horse to beat. We're going to try to beat him. Let's see who Mike and David like.
This is actually a very interesting running of the Grade 1 Bing Crosby. A lot of horses coming from different directions in here. We got some layoffs, but we also have a very clear horse to beat in CZ Rocket. He's just one of the best sprinters in the country right now. He's cutting back out of a longer race for this, which is supposed to really work for him. If I'm being honest, I never really bought into this horse last year. He kept running good races off the claim for Peter Miller, and I never really wanted to bet him in any of his starts. But he started to win me over this winter down at Oaklawn Park. I thought he ran two really nice races down there. He's the horse to beat. I'm going to take one shot against him in here with number 2, Vertical Threat. He's going to be my pick in this race. Vertical Threat is off the layoff, and he's coming back off that layoff in a very tough spot, but I liked this horse last year as a 3-year-old. Limited starts. I thought he ran well in every single one of them. He was 3 for 3 sprinting on dirt last year and just looked really good winning his races. He closed out that campaign with a fast race over a wet track against overmatched competition, no doubt about it. But I just like everything about this horse. I think there's a chance he could take a step forward at some point this year and be a major player in this division. And he's just going to be the right price in this race for me to take a shot with. So I'm going to put Vertical Threat on top and see if he's good enough to maybe come right off the bench here and beat a very strong Bing Crosby field. Let's see what the other guys think.
There's no question that CZ Rocket is the horse to beat in this Bing Crosby. He's really done nothing wrong since he's come into the Peter Miller barn last year. And while he ran really well at the start of the year, beating Whitmore in those 2 Oaklawn Stakes races, I'm not sure that the 8-year-old version of Whitmore is the best one that we've seen. And I thought it was an odd move to run this horse 2 turns at Lone Star last time. So now he's cutting back in distance, facing a pretty tough field here. And I think the main criticism of CZ Rocket is, while he's won a bunch of races, he's never run the kind of speed figures that make him all that formidable in these Grade 1 events, so he might win again if nobody else steps up. But I think that there are some intriguing new faces in this race, and one that I'm especially interested in is the number 8 Dr. Shivel, a 3-year-old facing older horses. This horse was really impressive when he broke his maiden over this Del Mar course as a 2-year-old, and let's take a look at his victory last time at Santa Anita off the layoff. He got a great trip in this race, coming through on the inside after stalking the pace early, but I like the way he finishes up and beats Canadian Pride, who's a solid older allowance horse who's posted some big speed figures before, and I think this runner can take a step forward second off the layoff for Mark Glatt. I looked up some stats in DRF Formulator. Second off a layoff of 6 months or more with horses that won last out, Mark Glatt is 5 for 14 over the past 5 years. That's a 36% win rate and a $2.08 ROI. So I think that this is a move that could work for Dr. Shivel. He does have to take a step forward to beat CZ Rocket, but I think he's one with upside that can do so, and he should be a decent price in this Bing Crosby.
I agree with David. I like the number 8, Dr. Shivel, in this year's edition of the Bing Crosby. He missed the Triple Crown Series, and usually that's devastating for the connections of a talented 3-year-old. But I wonder if it's the best thing that ever happened to Dr. Shivel, a Grade 1 stakes winner at 2. He wasn't on the Triple Crown trail. He didn't have to deal with the grind of all of those prep races. It's likely he's best at 1 turn anyway, and I was visually impressed by his seasonal return against older horses. I didn't love the field he beat. I liked the way he beat that field. He's 7-2 on the morning line. I hope he drifts up a little bit because this, by far, is the toughest class test of his career. But I think this horse is very, very promising around 1 turn. I'll go Dr. Shivel in the Bing Crosby. Best bets are up next.
My best bet comes in Saturday's 7th race at Saratoga. It's an allowance N1X going 1 mile on the inner turf course for fillies and mares. And this is one where there are a couple favorites in this race that I'm personally just not that thrilled with. The number 8 Love and Thunder has been a short price in both starts in this country for Chad Brown. And while she has had excuses losing those races, she was against slow paces each time. She finds herself yet again in a race that doesn't feature a whole lot of early speed. So she could be pace compromised in this race. And I just didn't want to take her here at yet another short price. Also, the number 2 Invincible Gal. She's a 3-year-old stepping up to face older horses, and she does have some upside because of that. She also had an excuse last time when she was against the pace in the Tepin, but I've personally just never been the biggest fan of this filly. I think she'd have to step up and run the best race of her career to beat these older horses, so I wanted to go in a different direction, and the horse that interests me most is the number 10 Drawn to Race, who's making her first start in this country. She raced twice in France earlier this year, both against Allowance Company. First time out back in April off the layoff, she finished in front of a horse, Es La Vida, who has since come back and been Group 1 placed in France, and then last time out, she showed good tactical speed before ultimately fading to third, just behind that same rival who went on to be Group 1 placed. And this filly Drawn to Race, I see why her connections have privately purchased her and brought her over to this country, because these are the same connections as Dolica, who has turned into a nice routing stakes filly for Al Stahl, and Drawn to Race is actually Dolica's full sibling, so I think she's got potential to really take to U.S. racing and do well in this country. Also, she's shown in her French races she has tactical speed, so I think that she could get the right kind of trip from this outside post under Joel Rosario. Al Stahl does not get a lot of these foreign shippers, but I think he could do well with this one, so it's Drawn to Race for me in race 7 on Saturday at Saratoga.
My best bet will come earlier on the card at Saratoga on Saturday. Race number 5. It's an entry-level allowance race for New York bred fillies and mares sprinting on the dirt. I like number 4 in this race behind the couch. She's shipping back into New York here for the first time in a while. It feels like this is a mare who's gotten back into pretty good form since being claimed by trainer John Salzman back in the spring at Pimlico. You know, she started out her career in New York. She was pretty good early on, an early winner, stakes placed as a 3-year-old, ran some faster races. She lost her way a bit. I think Salzman's just gotten this filly back into good form. Her most recent start back on July 4th at Pimlico, really impressive win, I thought. Here's the replay right now. Just looked loaded all the way around the track in here, sitting in behind the leaders. Her rider finally wheels her clear once they're down to about mid-stretch, and she just settles this race very quickly. A dominant performance here with a solid buyer speed figure. I just feel like maybe she's shipping back to New York now, not only at the right time while back into good form, but maybe just also facing the right field here. There's just really nobody to have a lot of faith in this race. Everybody's already had their chances. Nobody's really sort of panned out to be what it felt like maybe they could have been early on. That obviously includes behind the couch, but maybe she's back into New York now in the right kind of a spot. I think she could be a fair price in here. If she's anywhere around that morning line price of 7-2, I'll take her in here and make her my best bet on Saturday at Saratoga.
The most likely winner on the Pimlico Saturday card is Hello Beautiful in the Alma North Stakes. She's also likely going to be 1-9, so she's not exactly a best bet. My best bet at Pimlico is race number 7, number 5. Tip your hat to that. Let's watch Tip Your Hat to That's turf debut, the most recent effort at Pimlico. You see her swinging to the far outside in the stretch, was moving very comfortably on the back stretch into the turn, just couldn't get past this winner who was odds on, shipping down from New York, and just probably had that field over a barrel from a class standpoint. Tip Your Hat to That has excellent tactical speed, and I think this horse is going to be sitting in the second flight, ready to pounce when they turn into the stretch. Race number 7, number 5, Tip Your Hat to That, my best bet at Pimlico on Saturday. We thank you so much for watching Out of the Gate, and we urge you to follow all of DRF TV's offerings. Follow on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel, subscribe, get access to all of our videos all week long, and follow DRF on social media on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break